Great. This is a great opportunity. Dean Wortham, thank you for your time this afternoon. Professor Sparks, thank you for joining this discussion. Um, I'll take a second here to introduce myself. So I'm currently a trustee associate, and I am a proud alum of the Donovan Teaching Scholars Program. I graduated in 1997, and I've always been very proud to be a Donovan. It's been a great source of pride for me. Today, I am a practicing attorney. I am counsel for Boston Scientific, a medical device company based out of Massachusetts. But I also teach at nights at Boston College. I teach a course on race, law, and resistance. And I am so honored to be part of this discussion. Why don't we take a time and just, I'll allow you, Dean, to introduce yourself, and then we'll move on to Professor Sparks, and then we can talk a little bit about a few topics that I think folks out here are very interested in hearing. Dean?
Thank you, Juan. Thank you for taking the time and agreeing to do this interview with us. We appreciate the opportunity, and we're grateful to you for leading it. I'm Stanton Wortham. I'm the Charles F. Donovan S.J. Dean of the Lynch School of Education and Human Development here at Boston College. I've been here 4 years. I'm starting my 5th year this fall. I'm by training an anthropologist. I'm a linguistic anthropologist, so I've done work on urban schools, spending a year doing ethnographic research, and a project with a Mexican immigrant community that was a 10-year project, which will be described in a book that's coming out in October. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to lead the school and pleased to be here to share information with all of you about what's going on with urban outreach, the Donovan program, and how we're moving forward.
Thank you for that, Dean. And Professor Sparks?
Yes, hello, Juan. Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Sparks, and I'm the Associate Dean for Graduate Student Services in the Lynch School. I've been at the Lynch School for 28 years. I'm starting my 29th year as we go into 2020. My first 16 years were as a faculty member and then tenured faculty member on the counseling psychology department faculty. And I moved into the Associate Dean's office in 2008 and have been the Associate Dean since that time. But prior to coming to the Lynch School, I was actually a practicing psychologist. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I was a clinical counseling psychologist in practice for 16 years. And I actually served as a mental health administrator for Roxbury Community Health Center. So I've been working in the African-American community as lots of different positions over the years, but always in mental health and support for youth and families. So I'm really glad to be here, and as I've been in the office since 2008, I've worked a lot with the Donovan program and with urban outreach. So I'm very happy to be here to talk about the future.
Thank you for that. Thank you for those great introductions. I'm very pleased to be here with both of you this afternoon. There have been so many changes at the Lynch School in recent years, and I know that you, Dean, joined the school a few years back. Do you mind telling us what it has meant to become the Charles F. Donovan Dean of the Lynch School of Education and Human Development?
I've been very excited by the opportunity to come here. I spent 20 years teaching at Penn, and BC is an excellent research university like Penn, but it also has something additional. It's a mission-driven institution, which means that the university is focused on trying to help people reach their potential, trying to help young people develop to lead lives of meaning and purpose in a way that most peer institutions are not. So I've been grateful to be able to think about some of these questions of how do you educate whole human beings for meaningful lives? How do you help young people sustain a fulfilling life over a lifetime and do the development they need to do in order to have that opportunity? So BC and the Lynch School have been known for this mission, which has a commitment to whole person education, helping people develop a sense of purpose, and it has a commitment to justice. BC is a university, and the Lynch School is a school that has been particularly committed to trying to make the world more just, which is what our mission statement says here in the school. So it's been a great opportunity, and of course, the Donovan program and urban outreach are one important way in which we actualize that mission.
Excellent, excellent. And Professor Sparks, you've been here for quite a number of years. What can you tell us about the Donovan program and urban outreach programs over the course of the many years that you have graced us at Boston College?
Yes. You know, when I came in 1992, the Donovan program had been in existence, I think, for about a year. And they had a series of faculty members who were the directors for the program in those early years. And finally, they realized that to have someone to really devote the time and the focus to the program, they needed to have an administrator who was assigned only to the Donovan program and to urban outreach. The urban outreach agenda wasn't always there in the Lynch School. It came with Mayor Menino and his commitment from universities in the area to have some active involvement in our urban schools. So Boston College created the role for the newest Donovan the Donovan director, which was Catherine Wong. And so she handled both the Donovan program, our urban outreach program, as well as the College Bound program. So I've seen the development of the Donovan program from the time that she took the position, which was about 14 years ago, and, you know, made it into one that, you know, was a good, really an excellent program for training teachers who were going into urban education. We've had discussions through the years of being able to broaden out that experience and that education for all of our urban educators, whether they are in the classroom, in counseling offices, or in the principal offices. So we've had this conversation that we've hoped to be able to try to do with the Donovan program and the excellence that it prepares our students to be effective change agents as well as effective professionals in their specific roles in the urban schools. And this new development that we're working on now to try to expand and to enhance both the Donovan program as well as urban outreach into the urban schools and our partnerships with different urban school districts, this will bring about a larger impact for the excellence that we've seen over the years in the Donovan program.
Thank you, thank you. Dean, as a member of the Lynch School community, I received a copy of a letter that you issued to the community where you outlined and to some extent explained some of the changes, some of the new changes that are going on at the Lynch School of Ed. Can you talk a little bit about those changes and what may have precipitated the change?
Sure. So over the last couple of years, the Provost's office has done an audit, a review of all of our administrative processes here in the school, and they issued various recommendations for changes in organization and staffing across many of our programs. One of the big results of that was a year ago, we created the new Office of Strategic Initiatives and External Relations, which becomes important as we discuss what's happening with urban outreach. The Donovan program and urban outreach, as I said, are central to the mission of the Lynch School, and we are redoubling our commitment to them in ways that I know we'll discuss in more detail as we move forward. That the Donovan program's been extremely successful. As Liz said, it's prepared many excellent educators who work in urban schools, many of them in high positions now, having a large impact on whole districts, as well as many teachers in classrooms making a big difference for a lot of children. So we deeply value the program. We recognize that some of these changes have created uncertainty for current students, and everyone should rest assured that the seminars, the supports, the placements are continuing for the current Donovan cohort just as they would have before. The staffing's a little different, but all of the various structures continue to be in place, and They've even been expanded a bit, as I'm sure we'll talk about. Basically, two things happened with urban outreach. As one of the later in the series of reorganizations recommended by the provost's office and the consultant that they brought in, we're essentially doing two things. There are two crucial messages here. One is that urban outreach is now going to be not a silo, but a team. So under the pre-existing structure, we had one full-time person, who was Catherine Juan, plus a group of graduate assistants who worked with her. And they managed the Donovan program and the College Bound program. They did an excellent job. Lots of excellent education has been offered there, and various alumni are out, as I said, doing important work as a result of it. But the idea suggested by the provost's office was that instead of having one individual operating in a silo managing this, we were going to move to a team of people who would adopt a more distributed approach toward trying to do the management of the Donovan program, as well as College Bound. So what we're going to have is we're going to have the Office of Strategic Initiatives and External Relations will be responsible now for all of urban outreach. And instead of one full-time person, we're going to have pieces of several full-time employees will now be devoted to that program. So the most obvious one, as you've seen in the letter that I sent, and also in the recent announcement that just came out from BC Communications and is available yesterday, we've created a new position, an assistant dean who's in charge of professional development and urban outreach. And we're excited that Ashana Hurd has agreed to fill that position. She's officially started this week. So that assistant dean, a significant chunk of her work now will involve overseeing the urban outreach portfolio, Donovan and College Bound. But in addition, there are several other people in the Office of Strategic Initiatives and External Relations who now will spend part of their time on the Donovan program and on College Bound. So in terms of the total number of person hours from full-time employees being devoted to the program, we'll probably end up with more this year than if we had just had one full-time person. And the whole complement of graduate student assistants who would have helped with the program will continue and will also help with the program, plus perhaps a couple of extras who are available in that larger office. So the biggest idea behind this reorganization was we're going to use a team approach as opposed to a siloed approach. Now, I've heard various people express concerns to me directly or indirectly saying, now you have a new assistant dean and she has to oversee both professional development and urban outreach. So you're reducing your commitment to urban outreach because now it has half a person. And it's really important to see that, so that's not true. There are actually additional resources that will be devoted to supporting the Donovan program. And the fact that the person ultimately in charge of it also has something else in her portfolio doesn't mean that it's just half of her that's doing it. It's half of her plus a whole piece of several other employees from that office.
Thank you for that. Professor Sparks, you have been around the Lynch School for quite some time. What do you think about some of these changes that the dean just described?
I really feel that the changes are so important for the support of urban outreach and the Donovan program. You know, it's important, I think, for folks to understand that even though Catherine was the person that was directing the Donovan program and primarily the face of the Donovan program, our team, the student services team, our department chairs, the faculty advisors, as well as Catherine, were all involved in helping the students through the program and providing that kind of support. That support was in some ways invisible to the outside world, but it was very real to the students and to our experience of the interaction between the Donovan students as well as the rest of us in the Lynch School. So that will continue. There's no change in that at all. What has been added from my perspective is broadening the program to include others who are also as committed as the director of the Donovan program always was to preparing our students to be exemplar professionals in the urban education world and to be change agents in the urban education world. That will continue. And it will continue with a broader set of people who have expertise and skills in the areas that are needed in order to really bring about change in that system and change in the way that we prepare professionals for that system. So I don't see it as losing anything. I see it as adding support and adding the broadening perspective that I've been calling for about 10 years. And I always felt like I was like a voice in the wilderness, you know. But now I feel like, woo, they finally heard us and they needed to be able to do this. And we got support from the consultant that was asked by the provost office to look at our structure. And they're going to give us the resources and the support that we need to be able to do it well. So I feel as though these changes are really designed to not only support and bolster the existing Donovan program for the student teachers, but it's also going to be able to spread that excellence out to our urban educators that are going to be principals, to our counselors who are going to be supporting the urban kids in those schools, as well as to the broader system of partnerships and opening that up and managing it. And so PD, which is the other area, the professional development for teachers, that's going to be essential as a piece of urban outreach, because if we can put new teachers in the buildings, but we also need to educate the existing teachers. And Boston College's reputation of providing excellent professional development is going to go a long way to bringing in overwhelmed or tired or pre-retirement urban teachers who will come to us, or we will go to them, because a lot of the PD is going to be done in their own schools, to be able to educate them as well about the needs of urban children. So I feel very pleased that, you know, my presence and my work over these years of staying with the Lynch School through its ups and downs around the whole issue of diversity and inclusion as well as urban education, I've watched them grow and been a part of that growth, and pleased that this is happening now.
Yeah. Any concerns at all about the changes?
Yeah, I'll share the concern that I had and that I voiced and that we're actually working on. So the concerns that I had were that Catherine was such an excellent mentor as well as ombudsman for many of the students. I'm the Associate Dean for Students. So Catherine, I, and many of the Donovans spent many hours in my office, working out plans, working out adjustments, working out arrangements. That, I was concerned that that will need to continue, because that's just the reality of what happens when you bring in a large proportion of first generation graduate students of color into this institutional system. So we basically, that will continue. I was concerned about that being lost. I've been assured that Sean is going to work closely with my team in the graduate office so that we can continue to provide that level of mentorship and support and, you know, accommodation plans that are necessary, which is what I work on most of the time with the students who have that need in the program, so that we won't lose any of that. We really won't lose any of that. So I was concerned about that, that's the student face of the Donovan program, that I didn't want that to be changed at all. And I've been assured that it won't be changed. And we'll set, you know, my task this year is to set in place the support networks and connections to make sure that that does not happen.
Yeah. Can you help us to understand a little bit about what and I know it sounds like you're using the word assurance, you know, as in the colloquial, loosely. Can you tell me what those assurances were in terms of how that very critical service was going to be carried forward and not lost?
Yes, I can give you, I mean, I'll give a general example of the type of issues that come up. The Donovan program is a very concentrated program. They have, I call it an academic year with 2 bookend summers. So your summer 1, then your fall, spring, and summer 2. That whole entire program has to be completed in that period of time, because that's the way the funding structure was set up for the Donovan program. Now, it was set up back in the 1990s, when most of the courses, most of the programs were 30 credits. The Donovan program now has students that are doing programs that range from 30 credits to 47 credits. Because if you're in moderate special needs, and you need to have an initial license, then you have 47 credits that you have to finish. There is no way possible for a student to do 47 credits that include an internship or a practicum, they call them, minor internships, in a bookend summer and an academic year. It's just impossible to do. So there has to be that. We also have to work out on those particular situations, a plan for a student, and also plan for covering their tuition cost over and beyond the actual time period that they've been given, the 4 semesters that are part of the Donovan funding structure. So this has been something that doesn't hit a lot of students, but it hits some of the Donovan students because there's been an effort to recruit students who are willing to do their special needs license. Because in the urban system, you need to be able to integrate children who have special needs, and you need to have the training to be able to do that well. So they sometimes have 2 students or so each year who are in that long program. And yet the program wasn't designed to that. So we have to work out agreement plans of funding as well as course sequencing so that they can actually get it done and have the time that they need to not have to overload on the courses. So we have that problem, that issue. It's not really a problem, it's just an issue. The coursework now is more intense. We also sometimes have students that have personal issues that interfere. When we're dealing with first generation students, graduate students of color, many of them were first generation college students too, at the BA level. And so people have lives and they have issues that come up in their life. Sometimes it's family related, sometimes it's personally related. So that's my job, to work with the students, with the faculty advisors, and with the person who's the director of their program, which is the Donovan program, to come up with accommodation plans. And so we do that as well. And that's something that sometimes can take quite a number of sessions to get worked out because everybody has to agree, because we do it as a collaborative team. And so that teamwork will still be in place. And my office, as well as the Donovan director, as well as our faculty support, which are the faculty advisors and the department chairs, we have an existing team that does that, and we're going to continue to be able to do that.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Dean, can you talk a little bit about Boston College's relationship with school districts? It seems like the success of the Donovan, the need for Donovan is really to address needs in the school systems. Can you describe for us what efforts are being undertaken by the university in terms of relationships with these school districts, please?
Sure. Before I do that, I just want to underline one thing that Liz said. She was saying that we have an existing team of people here at the school who are all part of an ecosystem that supports Donovan students. So you have Lily Albert, David Scanlon, tenured faculty members who do a lot of advising. You have Liz, who's a tenured faculty member, also the Associate Dean for Students, plus Amy Gravato and her office, the grad office, to support students. You have Zena Hodge, who is herself a Donovan alumna and is in charge of the practicum office component of the Donovan program. So she gets to know the students and helps arrange placements and manage the placements for them. You have the graduate assistants who work on the program. So those people are all in place and are stepping up even more than they have in the past in order to provide support. Plus, we have the new folks in the Office of Strategic Initiatives and External Relations, Ashana, and other of her colleagues who are now spending significant amounts of their time on Donovan. So that's the group that we've committed to putting into place to support the students this year and going forward. With your question about the school districts, part of our good relationships with school districts has to do with Donovan alums. Charles Granson is one of the most senior administrators in the Boston Public Schools. Michelle Sanchez is the principal of a highly successful school. And both of them have been extraordinary helpers in terms of recruiting students, finding placements for students. And we're trying to work with them. We're working with BPS at the moment in order to try to sign some sort of an agreement where we can provide professional development for teachers. And we work specifically with BPS We're, of course, also deeply involved with the Catholic schools from the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston. So we spend a lot of time in urban Catholic schools as well, which is another important site for some placements. So Boston is the biggest place that we're committed to, the largest urban district in the region, and the one that we're committed to placing more students in and trying to collaborate with even more than we have. And Liz mentioned this vision of expanding the Donovan-like activities. So Donovan involves significant financial aid for students in exchange for a commitment to teaching in an urban school for some period of time. And we would like to create the same sort of system with mental health counseling students and with educational leadership students. So our goal would be to be able to raise funds so that we can have students who would be placed as counselors in the Boston Public Schools, and maybe also Chelsea or Worcester or another urban district, and who would serve as leaders in those districts too, coming out of our programs where we'd have the same exchange or contract where people would commit to working in an urban district after our program. So we do feel that we have good relationships with urban districts, but we'd like to make them even better. And the more students we can train who commit to working in districts like that, the more we'll succeed at it.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Dean, what can we expect to see in the year ahead? What are the, where are things headed? You know, what does the future hold for us? I mean, we're facing this pandemic. We know that there have been some disparities that have been exposed by that. We're facing astronomical numbers in terms of unemployment. There are, you know, food insecurity in our country has been exacerbated. What does the future hold for Donovan and programs like Donovan that are designed to address the urban experience?
I mean, all those challenges underline the importance of Donovan and programs like it. As Liz said, the Lynch School has had a commitment to addressing issues of racial justice and economic justice, I think more than many other units within universities. But we still have a lot of challenges, that there are still lots of folks who don't really understand how to serve students of color or first-generation students, and we need to work on that. Since I've been dean, I've been working hard on representation. So one crucial change is we need to have more faculty of color and more students of color in our community. Boston College has also been focusing on that among the undergraduates. I don't know this year because it's a coronavirus year. I haven't seen the statistics, but last year, 1/3 of the undergraduates who came to BC were students of color. The Donovan program this year, 70% of the students in the current Donovan program are students of color. And so we're working hard to diversify the student bodies. I've also been working in the school. Among my administrators, I have 6 associate deans in the school, and 2 of them are African American and 2 of them are Latina. So 4 out of 6 are colleagues of color. Among the faculty, we've hired 16 tenured and tenurable faculty since I've been dean, and 8 of them are faculty of color. So we're working hard and getting results in terms of diversification of the student body and the faculty, and we're not where we want to be yet. The Lynch School faculty is approaching 30% faculty of color, but we would like to do better, and so we're going to keep working on that. We have a speaker series that brings in potential colleagues toward that end for targets of opportunity. So I think that programs like Donovan are crucial for diversifying our own student bodies and for working in urban districts, serving diverse students who have particular needs and need preparation in order to be able to meet those needs successfully. The Donovan program, I've had the opportunity to meet recently with a group, several, sometimes individually, sometimes in a group, Donovan alumni. And a lot of the senior Donovan alumni, like yourself, have been supportive. They've said, okay, so you're doing a reorganization and we're willing to see how that works out. But people have also been very clear. They've said, at this historical moment, there needs to be a recommitment to urban outreach. we need to see concrete investments. There needs to be more money, more staff, and more commitment to trying to work in these areas of urban outreach, in the Donovan program in particular. And people have said to me, these alumni, we're happy to work with you as long as you show that commitment, but if you're not, if this is not something you're actually going to follow through on, then we're not really interested in helping. So let's see if you're actually going to do what you say. And I hear that. And we've been working, we've had meetings this summer with the advancement team, and we've put the Donovan program and fundraising for potential other programs for counselors and educational leaders that require students to work in urban schools. We've put that up at the top of our list for fundraising. So that's one of our 2 or 3 highest priorities in terms of potential donors who might take an opportunity to support that. And it will take substantial funds. The financial aid required is large. And so it's not something we're going to solve immediately, but there are alumni and other donors who are interested in supporting these sorts of things. And we're going to work hard and make that one of our top priorities. And we're also going to work hard. I'm committed to trying to get the staffing right. So in this year, we have this team approach that I've described. And after a year or so, we're going to revisit and see how is it that we should be staffing urban outreach in the Donovan program? What's the optimal set of people to be involved in the team? We're not going to go back to a silo, but how can we structure the team most effectively so that the students can get the support that they need? So that's my goal. I'm excited that a group of alumni and faculty who are committed to urban education have agreed to serve on a board where the board is going to get together. We're already scheduling a meeting for September, and the board is going to advise us on what could the larger urban outreach agenda be, what sorts of investments and commitments are required in order to move it forward. And that's something where I'm committed to trying to take as many of those recommendations as I can. Again, we can't guarantee that the money will all be raised immediately, but I'm committed to trying to move that forward so that we can do even better. We have a lot of excellent graduates. There's been a lot of remarkable work done in Donovan and elsewhere in urban outreach in the school. And I'm committed to continuing that and trying to do even more.
Professor Sparks, Dean Wortham, thank you for your time. Really great discussion.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Juan. We appreciate it.
Thank you.